First contact. Captain Zolter's tentacles twitched nervously as the reconnaissance vessel settled into orbit around Europa 7, the outermost moon of the gas giant Helios. The small human outpost below represented the first opportunity for his Myriadian exploration team to observe Earth's inhabitants up close without detection. Surveillance drones deployed. Captain, Lieutenant Pix reported, her bioluminescent skin pulsing in rhythm with the ship's systems. Initial scans indicate 37 adult humans and... She paused, fins flaring in surprise, 12 juvenile specimens. Zolter's compound eyes widened. Juveniles? In an outpost this remote? He floated closer to the viewing screen. Most species would never risk exposing undeveloped offspring to such a hazardous environment. Europa 7 was notoriously inhospitable, low gravity, thin atmosphere requiring supplemental oxygen, and surface temperatures that fluctuated wildly between scorching days and freezing nights. Even with their advanced technology, the Meridians found it uncomfortable. That humans would bring their young here seemed incomprehensible. Focus observation on the juvenile subjects, Zolter ordered. Supreme Commander Orbeck specifically requested information on human development practices. The drones transmitted crystal-clear images to the ship. The human outpost consisted of several interconnected domes surrounded by a perimeter fence. In what appeared to be an outdoor training area, adults supervised a group of small humans, some barely standing on their underdeveloped bipedal limbs. Magnify Sector 4, ordered Zolter. The image zoomed in on a child who couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 Earth years old. The small human wore a miniature version of the environmental suit adults used, complete with an oxygen regulator. The child was practicing jumping between platforms of varying heights. In gravity, only 60% of Earth normal. That can't be safe, whispered Medical Officer Trill, her translucent membranes quivering. The cranial development of human offspring at that age is incomplete. A fall could cause significant neural damage. Yet as they watched, the child executed a perfect leap across a gap that seemed impossibly wide, landing with practiced ease before turning to receive instruction from an adult. They're training them, Lieutenant Pix said incredulously, deliberately exposing them to risk. The observation continued for hours. The Meridians watched as human children practiced emergency procedures, donning oxygen masks with practiced efficiency. The smallest humans were taught how to seal habitat breaches, operate communication equipment, and even basic self-defense movements. This confirms the intelligence reports, Zolter said quietly. Humans don't protect their young from danger, they prepare them to face it. The most disturbing footage came from inside one of the habitat domes. A group of children, none older than 6 Earth years, sat in a circle around an adult female. She appeared to be telling them a story, but the content made Trill recoil in horror. She's describing predatory animals from Earth, Trill translated, teaching identification and avoidance techniques. Those images she's showing, they're deliberately frightening the younglings. No, Zolter corrected, his scientific training helping him understand. She's not frightening them, she's preparing them. Notice how the children aren't displaying fear responses? They're analyzing the information. Later that day, the drones captured footage of children practicing swimming in a small artificial pool. Even the tiniest humans were submerging their heads underwater, an action that should trigger panic in any rational species. Voluntary breath control at that developmental stage, Trill noted, making entries in her biological database. Combined with their bone density and muscle development, it's remarkable. The revelation came on the 3rd day of observation. A solar flare triggered emergency protocols at the outpost. The Meridians expected the humans to shelter their young in protective enclosures. Instead, children as young as 4 Earth years joined the emergency response teams, retrieving supplies and helping seal sections of the habitat. This is why they're classified as a Class 9 expansion threat, Zolter realized. A species that trains its offspring to function under crisis from such an early development stage. Their observation was interrupted when one of the drones malfunctioned, crashing into the outpost's communications array. The cover operation was blown. Captain, they've detected us, Lieutenant Pix reported anxiously. Human security forces are mobilizing. Prepare for emergency departure, Zolter ordered, but it was too late. A transmission came through the ship's communication system. A stern-faced human with silver-streaked hair appeared on screen. This is Director Harding of Europa 7 Research Station. Identify yourselves immediately. Zolter made the difficult decision to follow first contact protocols. I am Captain Zolter of the Myriadian exploration vessel Curiosity. We apologize for the intrusion. Our observation drone malfunctioned. Director Harding's expression remained stern. You've been watching us for 3 days. What? We are scientists, like yourselves, Zolter explained carefully. We seek to understand other species. A tense negotiation followed, culminating in an unprecedented invitation. The Meridians could send 2 representatives to the station under strict supervision. Hours later, Zolter and Trill found themselves inside the human outpost, escorted by Director Harding and Security Chief Colonel Fletcher, a formidable human with dark skin and vigilant eyes. You seemed particularly interested in our children, Director Harding noted as they walked through a corridor. May I ask why? Trill answered with scientific frankness. On our world, juveniles are kept in protected nurseries until their nervous systems fully develop. Your methods are unfamiliar to us. Colonel Fletcher's laugh startled them. You shelter your kids completely? How do they learn to survive? That's precisely what fascinates us, Zolter admitted. Your species deliberately exposes undeveloped offspring to potential dangers. They entered what appeared to be an educational facility. Children of various ages worked on complex tasks, some programming robotic assistants, others examining geological samples from the moon's surface. A small human, perhaps 6 years old, approached fearlessly. Are you really aliens? She asked, examining them with intelligent eyes. I'm Juniper. I've never met aliens before. Your skin looks like it conducts electricity. Is that how you communicate? Trill's membranes fluttered in astonishment at the child's observational skills. Director Harding smiled. Juniper is one of our brightest. She's already developing theories about exobiology. At this developmental stage, Zolter couldn't hide his shock. Humans learn fastest when we're young, explained Juniper matter-of-factly. Our brains form connections better. That's why we train now, so we're ready when we grow up. As their tour continued, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Without prompting, the children immediately organized themselves, the older ones guiding younger ones through what was clearly a well-rehearsed emergency procedure. Colonel Fletcher explained over the noise, minor pressure variance in Dome 3. Nothing serious, but we run drills regularly. They practice for emergencies from such an early age, Trill observed. Of course, Director Harding replied. Humanity survived on a planet that tried to kill us every day: predators, diseases, natural disasters. We learned long ago that protecting children doesn't mean sheltering them from reality. As they departed the station hours later, Zolter composed his report to Supreme Commander Orbex. Humans do not raise dependent offspring. From earliest development, they create capable survivors. Their children possess knowledge, skills, and psychological resilience that our species doesn't develop until full maturity. This fundamental difference in development strategy may explain humanity's rapid expansion despite their physical limitations. Recommendation: approach with extreme caution and respect. Understanding the unimaginable. Commander Nixis of the Galactic Coalition stroked her crystalline exoskeleton thoughtfully as she reviewed Captain Zolter's report. The observations from Europa 7 had sent ripples of concern through the Coalition's high command. After centuries of encountering various space-faring species, they developed reliable protocols for integration, but humans defied categorization. You're certain about these findings? She asked Dr. Vellum, the Coalition's leading xenoanthropologist. Dr. Vellum's gelatinous form pulsed with affirmation patterns. Captain Zolter's report aligns with other intelligence we've gathered. Humans train their offspring for survival from an extraordinarily early developmental stage. Commander Nixis made her decision. Assemble a research team. We need more comprehensive data on human child-rearing practices. The Coalition cannot formulate effective diplomatic strategies without understanding this aspect of their culture. 2 months later, Dr. Vellum led a disguised research team to Earth. Through careful manipulation of identification protocols, they established themselves as visiting educators from a prestigious international exchange program. Their target: North Ridge Elementary School in the Colorado Mountains. Remember, Dr. Vellum reminded his team as they approached the school building. Their holographic human disguises perfectly calibrated. We are here to observe only. No interference. Professor Quill, a spindly Arcturian xenosociologist whose disguise portrayed an elderly human male, nodded nervously. I've studied 17 sentient species, but none prepare their young like humans reportedly do. The school principal, a human female named Dr. Olivia Hammond, greeted them warmly. We're delighted to showcase our wilderness education program, she said, leading them through corridors buzzing with activity. Northridge specializes in integrating practical survival skills with traditional academics. Dr. Vellum struggled to maintain his composure as they observed their first classroom. Human children, approximately 7 Earth years old, were dissecting what appeared to be small animal specimens. Ms. Patel's second-grade biology class, Dr. Hammond explained proudly. They're learning basic anatomy through hands-on exploration. The children handled scalpels with surprising dexterity, making precise incisions while recording observations in digital tablets. One small human with curly red hair called out excitedly, "Ms. Patel? I found the heart." "Very good, Theo," responded the teacher. "Now can you identify which chamber is which?" "On my world," whispered Professor Quill. Children this age would still be in protective creches, at least 5 cycles away from handling cutting implements. Their tour continued to the gymnasium, where they observed children swinging from apparatus suspended meters above padded flooring. "We begin gymnastic training at age 5, explained the physical education instructor, Coach Reginald Porter, a muscular human with a resonant voice. "Builds confidence, strength, and spatial awareness." Dr. Vellum watched in horror as a small female child performed a complex series of midair rotations before landing on a narrow beam. That young child could have suffered severe injury if their trajectory had been miscalculated. Coach Porter laughed. "Melody? She's one of our best. Been tumbling since she was 3. Kids are more capable than we give them credit for." The outdoor portion of the tour proved even more disturbing. Behind the school building stretched a training course where children navigated obstacles, climbed artificial rock walls, and practiced starting fires with primitive tools. "Our wilderness survival program is quite popular," Dr. Hammond said. "By 5th grade, every student can build a shelter, find potable water, and identify edible plants in our region." Professor Quill's holographic disguise flickered briefly with shock. "You teach food acquisition at this developmental stage?" "Of course," replied Dr. Hammond, looking puzzled. "What do schools teach where you're from?" The research team exchanged glances. On their worlds, offspring were carefully fed pre-selected nutrition until near adulthood. The most alarming observation came later that afternoon. A group of 8-year-olds were engaged in what their instructor called conflict resolution training, but appeared to Dr. Vellum to be sanctioned combat practice. Children took turns immobilizing partners with precise holds, then demonstrating how to escape various restraints. "Mr. Jackson teaches basic self-defense," Dr. Hammond explained. "It builds confidence and safety awareness." "You teach your young to fight?" Dr. Vellum couldn't mask his astonishment. "We teach them to protect themselves," corrected Mr. Jackson, a compact human with alert eyes. "There's a difference." The planned observation was scheduled for 3 Earth days. On the second morning, fate provided the research team with unexpected data when emergency sirens wailed throughout the facility. "This is not a drill," announced a calm voice over the school's communication system. "Wildfire approaching from the west. Evacuation protocol Charlie." Dr. Vellum expected chaos. Instead, he witnessed extraordinary organization. Children calmly collected emergency packs from storage compartments and formed orderly lines. The youngest humans, barely 5 years old, paired with older children in a clearly practiced buddy system. "Our transport is 2 kilometers east," Dr. Hammond informed the research team as she coordinated the evacuation. "Standard procedure. We hike to the emergency zone if road access is compromised." "You expect these small humans to walk such a distance under threat conditions?" Professor Quill asked incredulously. "They train for this monthly," replied Dr. Hammond. "Even our kindergartners can manage it." The evacuation proceeded with remarkable efficiency. The children moved in formation through wooded terrain, navigating by landmarks rather than technology. When they encountered a stream swollen by recent rains, the older students created a human chain to help younger ones cross safely, without prompting from adult supervisors. Halfway to the evacuation point, a tree weakened by fire crashed down, narrowly missing several children. Without hesitation, a small boy named Mateo organized a group of classmates to clear a path around the obstacle. "Mateo's father is a forest ranger," explained Ms. Patel, who was walking nearby. "He's been helping on fire crews since he was 6. The research team watched in stunned silence as children who would be considered infants on their worlds demonstrated problem-solving skills, physical endurance, and emotional resilience that rivaled adult members of many coalition species. When they finally reached the evacuation zone, a clearing where transport vehicles waited, Dr. Vellum noticed something extraordinary. The children were checking on each other, distributing water, and assisting with minor injuries. The adults supervised but didn't manage every detail. They're functioning as a cohesive social unit, murmured Professor Quill, self-organizing under stress. After returning to their concealed ship that evening, the research team compiled their observations. Dr. Vellum's tendrils trembled as he composed his preliminary report for Commander Nixus. Human child rearing defies all known developmental models, he dictated. They deliberately expose offspring to controlled risk from earliest development stages. Rather than protecting young from their environment, they systematically prepare them to engage with environmental challenges. Professor Quill added her assessment. Their educational structure deliberately introduces stress factors to develop adaptation responses. Physical capabilities we would expect in mature specimens are cultivated in juveniles barely past infancy. On the final day of observation, with the wildfire contained, classes resumed. The research team watched as children discussed the evacuation, analyzing what worked well and how they could improve, a debrief strategy typically employed by military units on coalition worlds. That's when I understood, Dr. Vellum later explained to Commander Nixus upon their return. Humans don't see their children as vulnerable beings to be protected. They see them as apprentice survivors in training. In the Coalition High Command Chamber, Commander Nixus contemplated the implications of the research findings. You believe this explains their rapid expansion? Without question, Dr. Vellum replied. Species that shelter offspring produce adults that require extensive adaptation periods when facing new environments. Humans produce individuals conditioned from infancy to overcome obstacles. By the time they reach physical maturity, adaptation is instinctive. Commander Nixus made a decision that would transform coalition policy. Reclassify humans immediately. They are not, as previously categorized, an emergent technological species with moderate expansion potential. How should they be classified? Asked her aide. As inevitable, Commander Nixus answered soberly. A species that trains its young to thrive in adversity from their first steps will not be contained by conventional means. The coalition must adapt its approach accordingly. The resulting diplomatic protocols marked the first time in coalition history that a species was offered alliance status before achieving full interstellar capacity. Humans, puzzled by the sudden shift in alien interactions but pragmatic by nature, accepted the overture. Years later, when the first human children born on coalition worlds demonstrated their characteristic adaptability, Dr. Vellum would remark to Professor Quill. Other species develop technology to overcome their environment. Humans develop themselves, and they begin the process almost from birth. It's not their ships or weapons that make them formidable, it's their younglings. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.